Ken Follett, a master storyteller who started out just trying to make enough money to fix his car and has now sold more than 170 million books worldwide. Classics like Eye of the Needle and Pillars of the Earth. Now Follett is releasing the final book in his Kingsbridge series, which started with Pillars. This is his second appearance on this broadcast, but it's the first time ever Follett has invited a television interviewer into his home. Tea with Ken Follett. Not bad. Okay.
Few people have written as many pages about the history of Western civilization as Ken Follett.
50 years ago, this year, was your first book.
Yes, that's right. It wasn't a very good book, by the way.
To say he got better would be an understatement. Follett's late 70s World War II spy thriller Eye of the Needle made him a bestseller. But his works of historical fiction have made him a legend. That includes his Century trilogy, the last of which covered the end of the Cold War, including the fall of the Berlin Wall, something Follett keeps a permanent reminder of. One of the largest intact sections of the wall in England, a gift from his German publisher.
That's the cover of the third book in the Century trilogy in German. It's a cheerful thing, and it's a hideous thing.
Yeah.
It all happened in one night. And then it fell, and wasn't that a good day?
Damn right.
At Follett's estate, a former rectory an hour outside London, the days are often good.
This is the chamber.
This is where I work.
And always long.
From 5 a.m. every morning until
3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Follett's latest marks the end of a storytelling journey that spans 1,000 years. The Armor of Light is also the final entry in his Kingsbridge series.
You dedicate this book to historians.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I feel a little guilty. You know, they do the hard work. They do the donkey work. And I just read their books and use the information. And it sometimes strikes me that I've got the easy part.
The Armor of Light takes place at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, when the spinning jenny was introduced. The plot follows a widow and her son as their lives and society are transformed by these new machines.
And the problems they have and the troubles they get into.
As always, Follett's research left no details to chance.
This is the first use of punch cards in human history. And of course, in the early days of computing, data was inputted into computers with punch cards.
I never thought I would be so fascinated talking about textiles, right?
Right,
Reading
yeah,
this.
yes.
I mean, it's fascinating.
Yes. This was the first process that became industrialized. It was important, that it was very efficient. It made many people wealthier, including some of the people who worked in the mills, but also it made some people poorer. And that's the kind of historical conflict that gives rise to stories, the kind of stories that I like to write about.
If the upheaval of the Industrial Revolution wasn't enough, the Armor of Light also plays out during the fall of Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo.
In between writing the first and second drafts, I spent a week on the battlefield, researching the area.
And while the book is dedicated to historians, the main theme is freedom of speech, told in part through a breakout religious movement called Methodism.
The Methodists were a big influence in the 18th century. They were the only people who were keen that ordinary people should learn to read and write. Because, you know, the establishment was really afraid of working class people being able to read books and newspapers. But the Methodists had this thing where you were supposed to read the Bible for yourself. And in order to get people to do that, they had to teach them to read. So Methodists had Sunday schools.
No matter what time period Ken Follett is writing about, he has one crucial guiding principle.
You never want someone to have to read a sentence twice.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, this is what is culture for. It's for our pleasure, not just books, movies, paintings, poetry, the theatre, music. It's for our pleasure. And It's not supposed to be a crossword puzzle. Now, of course, there's a minority of people who like culture to be cerebral, people who like difficult novels and strange plays and modern jazz. These things, you know...
All due respect to jazz.
All due respect to jazz, but you can't dance to it. For me, it's got to be about enjoyment. It's got to be about pleasure.
Follett still finds immense pleasure in his writing process and has no plans to stop. He says golfing is what they make you do in hell. Too many stories to share in the meantime.
Now that you've written about the last 1,000 years of history, are you optimistic about the next 1,000 years?
No, I'm not, actually. And you know, I'm not a pessimistic person, but when I look at the world today, things worry me. There are a lot of people today who don't really know how awful the Second World War and the Nazis and fascism were. There are a lot of people today who hanker after authoritarian government, not knowing the horrors of that kind of government. And I look around the world and I see the beginnings of it again, and boy, that worries me. I've got grandchildren, you know, they're going to have to deal with that.
I like him a lot.
He's so great. My favorite thing about Ken Follett still is that, you know, so he came up writing in the 70s, wrote these thrillers, and was getting very successful at it. And then he told his publisher, I want to write a 1,000-page novel about architecture and love.
So they love that.
This historical. No, and they said, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
right,
You
exactly.
can't do that. No, no, no. And he said, yes, I'm doing it. He wrote Pillars of the Earth, one of the best books of all time. The whole family loves it. I'll reread it every couple years. So good.
Yeah, such remarkable insight. And I love the attention to detail.
Yeah.
The research he puts into all this is amazing.
Every single day.
New must reads on our list, Jeff. Once again, you've done it.